Hey y'all, Zach McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates, and these are my thoughts on buying a house in a competitive housing market. As a buyer in a ultra competitive housing market like Seattle, it can be tough and sometimes discouraging when you're trying to buy a house, specifically your first one. And if you have friends that have bought a house, you might have heard lots of different horror stories and people telling you how hard it is and how much stress they experienced in the process. Now, I don't want to sugarcoat it and say that it's easy to buy a house in Seattle or any other competitive housing market, but I do want to encourage you with this video that it is possible and it happens all the time. And I see clients successfully buy homes in the competitive Seattle real estate market. And what I want to do is share a few tips or a few encouragements with you if you're watching this video and you're thinking about maybe getting into the home buying process, or if you find yourself in the middle of it, it's not working out, or you're discouraged, I want to encourage you. So here are my thoughts on how to set yourself up to be successful in a competitive real estate market. Number one, be prepared. This can take the form of education, where you learn about the home buying process and what you're getting yourself into. In fact, that's what this channel is for, is educating and equipping home buyers and sellers to make good real estate decisions. You can also meet with a real estate agent and start working with a professional. In a competitive market, it's really important that you are working with somebody who knows what they're doing and can help you get to the finish line. Now, I know there are some of you out there, and maybe you're watching this video and you think, I can do this all by myself, and more power to you if you can do it all by yourself. I think there's value in doing certain things by yourself, and there's also a lot of value in getting professional input and advice. And so in my life, I've found that sometimes when I do things myself, it doesn't work out exactly how I hoped, and then I find myself looking to professionals later on. So if you're somebody who's a DIYer and you like to do things yourself, I would just say this isn't a house project. This isn't painting your house. This is a lot bigger decision, a lot bigger risks, a lot more involved. But if you can do it yourself, awesome. Good for you. Seriously, go for it. But most people are going to want to talk to a professional and get advice, input, education, all of the things that come along with having somebody walking you through the process. Additionally, you're going to want to get your financing in order. As a buyer, you either need to have cash set aside to make that purchase, or you need money to come from somewhere else. And the majority of home buyers are buying a house with financing. So you're going to need to talk to a loan officer or two. You're going to need to get a pre-approval letter where they're going to look at your income, your assets, your credit, and they're going to give you a letter and tell you how much you qualify for as a buyer. And this is something I typically advise on and give suggestions for when I meet with a buyer for what's called a buyer consultation. And that's where we talk about all of this. We talk about the process, we educate, we talk about working together and what that looks like. We talk about financing, how you get that set up, who you should talk to do that. And we also talk about your criteria, your needs, your wants, your no's, the things that are deal breakers, the things that are deal makers. We dive into your situation. And as a buyer, whether you're working with me or you're starting to dive into this process, you also want to learn about the neighborhoods, the locations, the houses, and what you like in a house and what you're looking for in a house. So all of these things I kind of lump together in a be prepared section here, because all of this helps you get set up for success once you start looking for houses. As a side note, if you're thinking about buying a house in the near future and you want to get prepared, please subscribe to my channel and check out some of the videos I've made on the home buying process and the Seattle real estate market. The second thing you want to do as a home buyer is be patient. As a buyer, when you're buying your first house, especially if it's a competitive market, you find yourself in a hurry. I don't know how to explain it, but I see many of my clients, at least at the beginning, feel this tremendous weight to make this happen really fast. And it is more common in the type A people that just want to get stuff done, but I see it in everybody that there's this sense of urgency to make things happen. Now, sometimes buyers find themselves on a time crunch. Maybe their lease is expiring in a month or two, or they're moving here from somewhere else, and they do have a pretty tight timeline. And it's possible to make it happen on a tight timeline. You just need to do some things that we'll talk about in a different video to make yourself more successful and stand out more when you're making an offer. But I would say in general, if you have the opportunity to be patient, I wouldn't rush into your home purchase. And if you're prepared at the beginning, you can be more patient as you move through the process. I know when I bought the house that I'm living in now, it was 2017, and my family, we were growing. We already had number one, number two was on the way, and we needed to get out of our space. And it was just really small, right? And we needed a bigger house. And we found ourselves making offers on all sorts of houses that we weren't really that excited about. And what that does is it takes a lot of time and energy and focus to go look at these houses, but also make offers on them. But what I found, and I found this for myself, and I've seen this for clients, when you're half-hearted about the house that you're buying or making an offer on in the location, you don't make a competitive enough offer to get the house. Because there's always somebody that actually really loves that house and really loves that location, and they're willing to do a little bit more, go a little bit farther, maybe pay a little bit more to get the house than you. So we found ourselves scrambling to look at houses, get out there quickly, because we were anxious and excited, which again is another thing that buyers find themselves kind of rushing, right? Feeling this pressure to perform. We found ourselves doing that and then going after these houses that we weren't really that excited about just so that we could have something to live in. And I would just say that's not the best way to go about the home buying process. You want to be prepared and you want to be patient and look for the right opportunities, because those are the ones you're going to do what's necessary to get and to be competitive with other buyers versus going after houses that you're kind of half-hearted about. Number 3, be persistent. It's a grind. I won't sugarcoat it. It can be a grind when you're buying a house in the Seattle real estate market or any other competitive housing market in general. But specifically in the Seattle area, sometimes it takes a little bit of persistence to make a home purchase happen. Now, some clients of mine get the first house that they make an offer on, and there are multiple factors that contribute to that. Sometimes it's the location they're looking in, and sometimes it's the strength of their financing, or maybe they're a little bit more risky than others. Some people have a lot higher risk tolerance than other people. And sometimes people start off with a lower risk tolerance and they slowly increase that as they continue to move along in the process. And that's typically once people kind of increase on their scale of risk tolerance and are willing to do a little bit more to get a house, that's where they start to see success. So being persistent is super important in the home buying process in a competitive real estate market, because there are usually other buyers that want to buy the same house. If you like a house, and it's your favorite house and it's your favorite location, there's probably other people that really like that house too. And so it's just important to have in your mind that it might not be the house that you end up with. So as we're looking at houses and as I show houses to clients, I have them wade through, what do you like about it? What would you change about it? Can you see yourself living here? Those are some of the guiding questions that we go through. But at the end of the day, I always tell people, don't get emotionally attached to the house until it's yours. Because there are all sorts of things that can happen before. Maybe there's 12 people that want the house. If you're number 2, you don't get it. There also might be things that happen during the process that cause the transaction to go sideways. Now, again, not super common, but it's possible. So it's really important to not be emotionally attached in this process and continue to persist forward. Sometimes it takes clients 5 or 6 houses. That's where I found myself. And you might laugh. You're like, this guy's a real estate agent. He should know how to do this. It doesn't ultimately come down to how much you know or how good you are at writing an offer. It really comes down to how bad you want the house. Because I advise clients up front on every single strategy that they can possibly use to win multiple offer situations, coming down to price, terms, contingencies, and I know all these myself. But what I found is for me, I wasn't willing to do what was necessary to get a house in a competitive situation until I found the right house. And I see that with clients all the time. They might make 2 or 3 offers before they get a house, but it's usually because they're making a couple offers on houses that they're not that excited about, And then they end up getting the one they're really excited about because they do what's necessary. So be persistent, continue moving forward, and stay the course. Last but not least, be creative. The traditional route of buying a house is the way the majority of my clients get a house. There are also other ways to do it. And traditionally, buyers find their house on the MLS. Agents find their house on the MLS. Now, MLS stands for Multiple Listing Service. It's the essentially database that all the real estate agents in the area use to market properties. So when I have a listing, a house that a seller wants to sell, I put it on the Multiple Listing Service, and then other agents are able to see that and show it to their buyers and bring offers. These websites that you see, Redfin, Zillow, Realtor.com, whatever website you're on with houses on it, are typically getting the information directly from the MLS. Now, there are a few sites that get information secondhand, but the majority of them are getting direct feeds from the Multiple Listing Service, and everybody's seeing those same homes. Real estate agents are seeing them, and consumers are getting the same information presented to them. When my mom was selling real estate, there was no such thing. The MLS existed, but the websites and things like that weren't around. And all that information was secretive and just for the real estate agents. And thankfully, that information is out there for everybody to use and benefit from. You can see photos, you can see videos, 3D walkthrough tours. Some of the stuff that I'm doing, my mom never had the chance to do. They maybe took one photo of the outside, but that was it. And so as a buyer, that's the traditional method of finding a house. Maybe you see it online and you talk to your agent, or your agent finds it online, mentions it to you. Really, those houses are the same, whether you're looking at Redfin or Windermere.com or whatever website you're using, or if I'm seeing it in the MLS, same houses. There's no secret special properties. Occasionally, though, there are other ways that you can get a house. And so in my situation, when I bought my house, we did a few things that you could do as a buyer if you wanted to, or I can do for you. So the first thing that we did was door knock. We literally knocked on doors in the neighborhood that we were living in to get a bigger house, to get a bigger space. We passed out letters. We handed them letters that we had written, but they were specifically for the neighbors. They all knew us. It was like, hey, we're looking to buy a bigger house and we need a place to grow our family. And as we're handing out letters and walking around, neighbors were starting to talk and get the word out essentially. But we had somebody call us right away that we wanted to buy her house. And she called us and she says, oh, I'm so excited for you. I'm not selling right now, but I'm so excited for you. We're like, right? But what we also did is we handed out letters in another neighborhood that we were really excited about as well. And it wasn't long after that, maybe a couple weeks, that somebody called us and said, hey, we want to sell our house and we would like to show it to you. And if you're interested, maybe we can work something out. Now, as a real estate agent, it's a little easier for me to do that kind of a deal because I'm a real estate agent and I know all the forms and I have all the process down and I can help somebody else walk through that with us. I've sent out letters for clients and ended up helping them get into houses that weren't for sale. I think it's possible to go other routes. Typically, I have people go the traditional route at the beginning because there's no need to go look at off-market houses when you have a whole bunch of houses available. But what we find ourselves, at least in Seattle right now, is a super competitive real estate market, a housing market with literally hardly enough supply and inventory for the buyers. So we need to look at other ways to bring houses to people. And so I have tried door knocking. I've found more success with letters and handwritten cards at reaching people, right? Getting in front of them and actually having them consider my message versus like, hey, what are you doing at my front door? But sometimes it just takes a little extra effort or something different to bring about the solution that you want. So if you're somebody who's looking to buy a house in a competitive market, you're going to want to get prepared. You're going to want to be patient. You're going to want to be persistent, and you're going to also want to be creative. If you find yourself watching this video and you're thinking about buying your first house, or maybe you've relocated to the area or had a bad experience the first time, I'd love to sit down with you and bring some value to your individual situation. So please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information's in the description below.